My fiancé suggested we take a break for the summer before our wedding. I responded, an interesting concept. Then, I drafted a legal contract, agreeing to her proposal, but with a substantial financial penalty if she violated the terms. She quickly found herself scrambling, realizing her summer of supposed freedom now carried significant consequences. I'm a 31-year-old male, and I had been with my fiancée, Jessica, 29, for 4 years or rather. Our wedding was scheduled for September 21st. The venue, a vast rustic barn, was booked and had cost a fortune. Deposits were secured for everything from the photographer to the excessively artisanal donut wall she insisted on. We shared a condo that I owned. I'd purchased it before we met, and she contributed a fixed amount monthly for utilities and groceries. For wedding expenses, we opened a dedicated high-yield savings account in my name, to which we both contributed. This made managing vendor payments, which I handled, simpler. I had put in $25,000, and over the past year she had contributed $15,000. That was the financial breakdown of our situation 2 weeks ago. On a Tuesday evening she asked me to sit down on our grey linen sofa, the one she'd chosen. She wore that expression, the one meant to appear gentle but truly just prepares you for impact. Thomas, she began, nervously twisting a loose thread on a cushion. I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about the wedding. My stomach dropped. I'm a planner, an architect. My entire world is constructed on blueprints and sturdy foundations. I don't handle surprises that threaten core structures well. Okay, I said, my voice steady. It's a technique I mastered early. When your insides are churning, keep your voice flat. I love you, she uttered, the classic prelude to an emotional collision. I truly do. But marriage, it's forever. And I just have this tiny, persistent feeling that we're moving too fast. That I haven't had a chance to just be myself before I commit forever. I remained silent, observing her. I could see the rehearsed speech in her eyes, the carefully selected words designed to sound profound rather than serving. My friend Barbara, she continued, she and her husband did this before they got married. They spent a summer apart, a breakup for the summer with no contact. They each got one last hurrah to ensure they were truly ready to settle down. She said it was the best thing they ever did for their relationship, a breakup for the summer. 3 months before our wedding, my mind went completely still. The emotional, reactive part of my brain just shut down. In its place, the architect took over. I instantly grasped the blueprint of her scheme. She wasn't seeking reassurance, she was seeking a guilt-free pass. She intended to enjoy a summer with someone else, keeping me, her stable future, on standby until fall. The pain was undeniably present, a deep, hollow ache that originated in my chest and radiated through my limbs. It felt like discovering a major flaw in the foundation of a building you believed was flawless. In that moment, you know it's not a simple repair, it's a complete demolition. I looked at her, at the eager hope in her eyes, the expectation that I would either explode in anger or reluctantly agree. She thought she was dealing with a romantic partner. She wasn't. She was dealing with a strategist. Interesting concept, I said. Her face instantly brightened with relief. Really, you're not mad. I'm processing, I replied, which was accurate. There are practicalities to consider. If we're doing this, we need to do it correctly, like Barbara. Absolutely, she beamed. We just need some ground rules. Precisely, I said. I want to protect both of us. The condo, the wedding finances. It could become complicated without a clear agreement. I paused. My cousin Joseph is a contract lawyer. I could ask him to draft a straightforward separation agreement for the summer. I'll cover his fees, of course. It's better to invest a few hundred in legal expenses now than risk thousands later, just to keep everything organized and impersonal. I could almost see the gears turning in her mind. The word lawyer likely alarmed her, but framing it as mutual protection and a business matter made it sound mature, even responsible. She was so focused on her prize, a summer of unchecked freedom, that she didn't perceive the trap I was meticulously setting. Wow, she said, that's actually really smart, Thomas. Okay, yeah, let's do that. She believed it was for her benefit. It wasn't. It was for mine. The following 2 days passed in a quiet flurry of activity. I contacted Joseph, who, after a long, thoughtful silence, simply stated, I'll have it ready for you by tomorrow. Don't worry. I dedicated hours to meticulously reviewing our joint finances, wedding vendor agreements, and the condo lease. Jessica, meanwhile, was positively giddy, already packing a suitcase and discussing plans to stay with her friend Sarah for a while. The contract Joseph drafted was a masterpiece, concise, clear, and utterly unforgiving. It precisely outlined the terms of our summer separation. The agreement would be valid from June 1st to August 31st. Residency and property. Jessica was required to vacate my property by 5 p.m. on June 1st, taking all personal belongings with her. A clause specified that any property left behind must be retrieved at her own expense within 30 days of her departure. Following formal written notice, communication, no contact of any kind was to be initiated by either party for any reason, except for a documented medical emergency involving a direct family member. Liquidated damages clause. This was the linchpin. It stated that our wedding constituted a joint financial undertaking. Crucially, if Jessica were to violate any primary term of the agreement, she would forfeit her entire $15,000 contribution. This sum was explicitly defined not as a penalty, but as liquidated damages, a pre-calculated estimate of the significant financial losses, non-refundable deposits, cancellation fees that would be incurred from the immediate and necessary cancellation of the wedding, should the separation agreement fail. I presented the document to her on Friday night. Here's that agreement. You should look it over. She opened it, her eyes scanning the pages. She even chuckled. This is so official. Party A and Party B. Joseph is thorough, I noted. Preparing coffee, she casually flipped through it, and I observed her eyes glazing over the legal terminology. She reached the damages clause, and paused. $15, she questioned, confused. That's all my savings. It's a liquidated damages clause, Jessica, I explained calmly, using the exact phrasing Joseph had taught me. It's not a punishment. It's a pre-calculation of the actual financial impact we'd face if this goes sideways and we have to call off the wedding. Think of all those non-refundable deposits. This way, if one of us breaks the terms, we don't have to argue over who owes what. It's a clean way to cover the costs. It applies to both of us, but since the funds are in my account to pay the vendors, it has to be worded this way. It was the perfect rationale. It sounded equitable. It even sounded like it benefited her. She chewed on her lip, then shrugged. Okay, I guess that makes sense. It's not like either of us is going to break it anyway. She signed it 2 copies. She didn't bother having a lawyer review it. She was too eager for her summer to begin. She moved her belongings out that Saturday. I watched her carry boxes to her car. A knot in my stomach. When the last box was loaded, she gave me a quick, awkward hug. I'll see you in September, she said, her voice bright. This is going to be so good for us. You'll see. I merely nodded. Be safe, Jessica. I watched her drive away, then stepped back into the silent condo. I allowed myself to feel it, then the full, crushing weight of the betrayal. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I just sat on the floor of our partially empty bedroom and let the quiet engulf me. Then, I rose, went to my laptop, and changed the code on the electronic front door lock. The trap was sprung. All I had to do was wait. Update 1. It's been 23 days since Jessica departed. The initial week was sheer misery. Every creak in the condo seemed to echo her presence. I constantly imagined seeing her out of the corner of my Archer phantom limb, a future I thought I possessed. I did what any rational, heartbroken person would do. I thoroughly cleaned the entire condo, rearranged the furniture, and meticulously compiled a spreadsheet of wedding vendors and their cancellation policies. It's what I understand: structure, order. I didn't have to wait long for my suspicions to be confirmed. Jessica isn't exactly a master of subtle deception. Her social media, which I had the foresight to monitor via a mutual friend's account, transformed into a highlight reel of her eat, pray, love summer, though it was more like drink, post, tag, and she was tagging someone new, a man named Richard. Richard is precisely the type you'd envision. He wears boat shoes without socks, and his Instagram is a curated gallery of him on yachts, on golf courses, and clutching cocktails that cost more than my weekly groceries. There they were, Jessica and Richard, beaming from a winery patio. A week later, a group photo at a beach house, his arm draped possessively around her, with the caption, "Summer nights with the best crew." It stung, yes, a dull, predictable ache, but mostly, I felt a sense of vindication. This wasn't a spontaneous journey of self-discovery. This was a premeditated affair she wanted to enjoy without the cheater label. She had secured my replacement before she'd even left my home. This morning it happened. My phone buzzed a text from Jessica. "Jessica, hey, you'd just been thinking about you. Hope you're doing okay." My heart pounded in my chest. This was it, the first ripple in the impending avalanche. I stared at the message. Its casualness was insulting. "Hey, you," as if she were texting a college acquaintance. I didn't respond. I took a screenshot, saved it, and continued with my morning coffee. An hour later, another buzz. Jessica, Thomas, are you there? I was just wondering if you'd remembered to pay the final deposit for the caterer. It's due this week, I think. Don't want them to cancel on us. And there it was. The breach. Clear, documented, and utterly foolish. My hands were perfectly steady as I opened my laptop. I composed a new email. I attached the 2 screenshots of her texts, with timestamps clearly visible, to Jessica CC, Joseph subject, notice of breach of summer separation agreement. Jessica, Betsy's email serves as formal notification that you have breached the terms of our legally binding summer separation agreement, dated May 30th, as per clause 3. Communication. No contact was to be initiated by either party. Today, at 9:15 a.m. and 10:22 a.m., you initiated contact via text message for a non-emergency reason. See attached screenshots. As per clause 4, liquidated damages clause. This breach results in the immediate forfeiture of your entire $15,000 contribution. These funds will now be used to cover the cancellation fees for all wedding-related vendors and contracts. As outlined in the agreement, please consider this notice that the wedding planned for September 21st is officially cancelled. I will handle all communications with the vendors. Do not contact me further. Any future communication must go through my legal counsel, Joseph, who is CC'd on this email. Sincerely, Thomas. I hit send. The silence that followed lasted precisely 11 minutes. Then my phone began vibrating so violently it nearly slid off the table. I silenced it. It rang again and again. Texts started pouring in. I blocked her number. I feel calm. The ache remains, but it's the clean pain of a necessary surgical procedure, not the festering decay of betrayal. She wanted a summer without repercussions. I simply handed her the invoice. Update 2. It's late July. The heat is stifling, but my condo remains cool and quiet. Life has settled into a new routine. I've cancelled all the vendors. Most were surprisingly understanding. Jessica's forfeited $15,000 covered every single cancellation fee and non-refundable deposit. Almost to the dollar. I'm not out any money. I thought the email and the financial consequence would be the end of it. I was mistaken. It appears Jessica and Richard's summer fling has encountered its first major hurdle, reality. Last Saturday, my doorbell rang, forceful, persistent knocking on my actual door. I checked the camera on my phone. It was Jessica, and right behind her, looking both smug and furious, was Richard. I allowed them to stand there for a full minute while I weighed my options. Then I opened the door, just a few inches, the security chain still engaged. Jessica, I said, my voice neutral. We need to talk, she asserted, attempting to push. The door open, the chain held. No, we don't. I countered. All communication goes through Joseph. You're aware of this. Richard stepped forward. Dude, cut the crap. You're acting psycho about this. It's her money. It's a pleasure to meet you, I said, looking directly at him. I'm the guy whose fiancée left him to spend the summer with you. And you are. This isn't about him. Jessica snapped. This is about you stealing from me. I want my stuff. Thomas, my winter coats, my grandmother's lamp. This was precisely what I was anticipating. Your belongings were not stolen, Jessica, I stated. My patience now a strategic weapon. They were handled exactly as outlined in the contract you signed. The items you left behind were inventoried and placed in a climate-controlled storage unit, I continued, letting the bureaucratic chill permeate the conversation. Joseph sent a formal notice via certified mail to your friend Sarah's forwarding address you provided over a month ago. It contained the full inventory list, the storage unit details, and instructions for retrieval. The contract stipulated you had 30 days to arrange for collection at your own expense. That deadline is this Friday. Her face transformed from fury to stunned bewilderment. The lamp wasn't her grandmother's. It was a cheap antique store find. But her winter coats, those were expensive, and now they were inaccessible. Behind a wall of logistics, she had to navigate. You put my stuff in storage, she whispered, aghast. Why wouldn't you just let me come get it? Because that would involve you coming here and initiating contact, which would have constituted a further breach of our agreement. I replied simply. I followed the contract precisely to avoid any further conflict. It's all been handled, legally. Now you're trespassing. I'm going to ask you to leave. If you're still here in 60 seconds, I will call the police. Richard scoffed. You wouldn't. I merely held up my phone, the screen already on the dial pad. 50 seconds. The bravado drained from Richard's face. He grabbed Jessica's arm. "Come on, Jessica, he's crazy. Let's go." She glanced back at me over her shoulder, the hatred in her eyes unadulterated. "You'll regret this, Thomas." I closed the door and saved the entire recording from the doorbell camera. Jessica's parents contacted me later that week. I had Joseph forward them a polite email explaining the situation, complete with a redacted copy of the contract, a summary of events, and a copy of the certified mail receipt for the storage notice. Her mother called back, utterly mortified. Jessica had told them I was the one who demanded the break and was now holding her belongings hostage. The truth, in its cold, documented reality, was undeniable. Final update: it's October. The leaves are changing, and the air carries that crisp, clean sensation that always signals a fresh start. My condo is sold. I finalized the sale last week. Too many lingering memories. I'm now in a new apartment downtown, overlooking a park. It's smaller, but it's entirely my own. The silence here is tranquil, not oppressive. The final act of the Jessica saga concluded not with a bang, but with the pathetic sputter of a damp firecracker. As anticipated, she sued me in small claims court for the $15,000. She represented herself. Richard, predictably, was nowhere to be found. Their summer romance, built on deceit, apparently couldn't withstand the harsh glare of legal proceedings. I appeared in court with Joseph. I had my folder, the signed contract, the screenshots of her text messages, the time-stamped video of her trespassing. Jessica's argument was purely emotional. She spoke of how I had manipulated her, how I had been cold and unfeeling. Then she played her ultimate card, and he stole my property. He locked away all my winter clothes and precious family heirlooms and tried to get rid of them. When it was our turn, Joseph rose. He was composed, almost disinterested. First, he presented the contract, pointing to her signature on the liquidated damages clause. Then he addressed the property claim. "Your Honor, my client did not steal or withhold any property. In fact, he went to great lengths and incurred personal expense to protect Miss Peterson's belongings in accordance with the law." He then produced the evidence, the full itemized inventory list of the items she'd left, the receipt for the first month of the storage unit, the certified mail receipt for the legal notice, which had been delivered to the address Jessica provided. He even had a printout of an email from the storage company, confirming the unit was now empty, as Jessica had been compelled to clear it out at the last minute before its contents were auctioned. The judge, a nonsense woman, looked from the stack of evidence to Jessica. "Ma'am, it appears Mr. Hayes has acted with more diligence and legal propriety regarding your relationship and property than you have. You signed a contract. You breached it. He followed it to the letter, even when protecting the belongings you abandoned. There is no case here. Dismissed." I walked out of the courtroom without looking at her. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt finished. The final piece of paperwork on a demolished building had been filed. A week later, I received one last text from her, from a number I didn't recognize. "Jessica, I hope you're happy. You ruined my life over a few text messages." It was the perfect summary of her entire worldview. In her mind, the problem wasn't her betrayal. The problem was that I had held her accountable. I didn't reply. I blocked the number and changed the password on my premium Spotify account, which she'd somehow still been using. There is no cinematic ending where the antagonist learns their lesson. People like Jessica don't learn. They simply move on, crafting a new narrative where they are the perpetual victim, and that's perfectly fine. My retribution wasn't loud or explosive. It was quiet. It was bureaucratic. It was simply the systematic application of consequences. And in the end, that is the most satisfying form of justice. I am at peace. I am moving forward.